Hi everybody, my name is Andrea and welcome to my Booktube channel. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, even though it's like literally not mid-year anymore, but I thought it'd be a cool way to talk about the recent reads I've had. So the first question on this is best book you've read so far in 2020, and this book is hands down Mexican Gothic by Celia Moreno Garcia. I did a book review on this book and I'll link it somewhere here, but I adore the themes of eugenics and colonialism in Mexico. She is such a badass writer and I'm so happy to see this book on the New York Times bestseller list. It's her first time on it and I'm so happy for her. The second question is the best sequel you read so far in 2020, and that would be the Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I had been putting off Poppy War for some reason and I got into it like right about when quarantine started. And I just fell in love with the series. I think the Dragon Republic is much more stronger than the Poppy War. I like it way more. And it continues to, you know, talk about the horrors of war. I feel like that sounds so like apocalypse now of myself to say that.
Horror has a face. And you must make a friend of horror. Horror.
But like it really goes into the little vulnerabilities, I guess you could say, the horrors, the dangers, and the humanity in many ways of war. And I just really like the Dragon Republic. I think the action scenes in this book are delicious in the sense that they are super cinematic. They do not drag the plot at all. They only help advance it. I know sometimes with like these big epic fantasy, historical fantasy books, it kind of makes me a little bit tired to read them, like Game of Thrones, because the action sequences like feel like it's the never-ending story and they just don't seem to end. But I did not have that problem with this one, and I'm really excited for the finale of the trilogy, which comes out later this year. Number 3, new release you haven't read yet but want to. I really want to read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. He is a indigenous writer, and this is a horror book, and I've been really getting into horror lately. Like ever since I read Mexican Gothic, I'm just really in the mood, you know. And I had mentioned this book in my 20 diverse books that I wanted to read in 2020, and this book is basically about a group of young American Indian men who, after a disturbing event from their youth, puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives. So they're being tracked by this entity kind of bent on revenge, and the childhood friends are helpless as the culture and traditions they left behind catch up to them in a violent, vengeful way. And I don't read enough indigenous authors, and I really want to read more. So I'm very excited to read this book. I have not been able to get a copy yet because I'm poor, but I'm hoping next time my paycheck comes in I could splurge a little. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I really want to read Vampires Never Get Old Tales with a fresh bite, and it's an anthology created by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. They're the editors for this. But basically there are 11 vampire stories from like young adult fiction writers, and there's a lot of cool authors on there that I love. Like it features V. Schwab, Rebecca Roanhorse, Samira Ahmed, and I think it's going to be awesome because there are going to be a lot of diverse vamps in there. I also really want to read Lupe Wong Won't Dance by Donna Barbara Igueria, which comes out September 8th, 2020. And it stars an Asian Latinx main character. She's Chinese Mexican, which is not something that I see a lot in books. I don't think I've ever read an Asian Latinx main character in a book. I'm trying to think, but I can't think of one right now. So this book is about Lupe, who needs an A in all her classes in order to meet her favorite pitcher, Fuli Hernandez, who is a Shinikin Mexinese just like her. So when the horror that is square dancing rears its head in the gym, obviously she's not gonna let that slide. And I'm really excited because, again, I don't read enough Asian Latinx characters in books, and I'm excited to read this one. Number 5, biggest disappointment. It hurts to say because I really wanted to love this book, but it wasn't It wasn't for me. It wasn't meant to be. And that's Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This came out in January. It's such a beautiful cover, first of all. I think it's stunning. She designed it herself, which I think is super fun. And I think the sequel's cover is equally as beautiful. She's a very talented designer. But her book, just couldn't get into it, sadly. I got probably a chapter or two in before DNFing it. Just because of the ways I felt the storyline going, and I was talking to a couple of friends, and they felt the same way after reading this book. I was slightly uncomfortable at the way that the author was, I guess, positioning indigenous and indigenous coded characters, and it just felt weird to me, because I know this is heavily inspired by Bolivian politics and life. So I had to stop it, unfortunately, but it's a beautiful cover. Number 6 is Biggest Surprise. This is actually an ARC that I read that's coming out soon on August 4th, but it is You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. This is my first Alexis Daria book. I've heard only good things about her, but it's a romance book, and I'm not really big into romances. It's not a genre that I kind of gravitate towards, and I'm really picky with them. Like, they have to be written in a very specific way, or I'm not gonna like it. And I think that's just because I've spent like literally a decade reading fan fiction, so I kind of know what I like in terms of romance, right? But this book, I just loved it so much. I do not know where my physical copy is. It is somewhere in this room. But it is about Jasmine Lin, who is this daytime soap opera star, and she has just broken up with her rock star boyfriend, and she's basically blasted on every single cover of every single magazine, and at the same time she just books this role to star in a major Streamflix, which is supposed to be like a Netflix show, with this giant telenovela actor called Ashton. And she decided she's going to do a thing called her leading lady plan, which is not dating co-stars, just staying in her lane, working on her career, and just working for a really big and successful career. But sparks start to fly between her and her coworker, and it just goes from there. One thing that I really like in this book is that you get kind of these little peeks into what scenes they're filming in the TV show, because that's always cool. I remember sometimes when you're reading a book and they mention something like a TV show or a book or whatever that doesn't actually exist, I always have that curiosity of finding out what it's like or what it's about. So I like that this book gives you a glimpse into that. And I like how Alexis Daria, in the actual physical copy, it's kind of formatted in screenwriting format, which is fun. But yeah, I really like this book. It's so cute. And if you are interested in reading this book, or if you're excited about this book, definitely DM me on Instagram, because I'm planning something really cool for its release. And you can message me at Peach Cactus. Number 7, favorite new author, debut, or new to you. Well, Alexis Daria is definitely one of them. I think that I just fell in love with the ease she has of writing romance. Like, it's so effortless but also organic at the same time, and it's like the perfect amount of like slow burn and romance storyline. But I also really loved R.F. Kuang again, popular writer. She is so talented. She is so young. She's like my age, I think, and she has written these 2 massively successful books, and I'm rooting for her so hardcore. And I'm just in awe in the story and the world building that she created. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I don't really get fictional crushes, weirdly enough, but if I had to pick one, I would probably say Takumi from Let's Talk About Love. I read this book in late May / June, but this book is about a biromantic asexual young woman named Alice who is working at her college university library, and she decides she's done with love. She just had this not horrible but soul destroying, I guess you say, breakup with her girlfriend, after her girlfriend kind of discovers that she's asexual. And she writes off love until she meets Takumi, who she immediately gets a crush on. And they have a really cool slow burn, and I'm a big fan of slow burn. I like pining and yearning and angst in my books, and this had all of those things. But Takumi was always really chill, from what I can remember. And I liked him. He was cool. Number 9, newest favorite character, probably from my newest favorite book, which is Mexican Gothic. Naomi from Mexican Gothic is just so classy, but also headstrong, and she doesn't take anybody's shit. Naomi just reminds me of like the classic 50s Mexican golden era like movie star. She's supposed to kind of look like Katy Jurado. So she really reminds me of her, but like I think like Dolores del Rio and Maria Felix, and just that kind of eyebrow raising 1950s Mexican star is what I imagine when I think of her. I love her so much. Number 10, book that made you cry. Books, again, they don't really make me cry either, but I guess the closest I got to crying, I read Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a memoir, and if you don't know who Chanel Miller is, she is the Jane Doe in the Brock Turner rape case from a few years back, and this memoir kind of went into the aftermath of that and how she dealt with the grieving of something she didn't have clear memories of, but affected her life so drastically in ways that she could have never imagined. She's a really talented writer, and she talks about how her mother is also a writer, and she feels like she was born with the words inside of her, with the storytelling gene inside of her, which I thought was really cool. And literally the way she composed the story is so poignant and honestly stunning. I was, again, in awe of her writing. She is so strong, and she had such a great support system during that time. So definitely check it out if you have time. But yeah, Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I read it for Asian and Pacific Heritage Month. Number 11, book that made you happy. Well, this book's not out yet, but Lobisona by Romina Garber made me happy because I felt like this was the kind of book that I would have loved when I was like 15 years old and super into like werewolves and vampires and fairies, and I wanted to get like a werewolf boyfriend and that kind of stuff, you know, because it was about a Latinx main character, and that's not something that you really necessarily see in these kind of supernatural-esque stories or YA. I don't know, as I was reading this book, I was like, dang, I would have loved this book when I was 15, and I'm so glad that I got to read it now, because I'm reading it for that kid who wrote really bad werewolf fanfiction. Number 12, most beautiful book that you've bought so far. I received quite a bit of arcs from NetGalley and stuff. I think of course, Mexican Gothic cover is beautiful. The You Had Me at Hola cover is beautiful. The cover to Axioms End by Lindsay Ellis, I really like. I'm currently reading this book. I think it really reminds me of a Vertigo, and that's why I like it. It has like this really retro quality to it that I just enjoy. But the winner has to be Each of Us is a Desert by Marcus Shiro. I got this book courtesy of Tortine, and I love the sand dune, and I love how there's a face in the sand dune and this like orange sun behind it. I really like. I'm from a desert, so this reminds me of like home. It reminds me of heat, and it reminds me of like sand in between my toes. So yeah, this one, I really like it. Number 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Again, like I said, I have a bunch of arcs, so I'm just gonna list the arcs that I need to finish. Oh God. I need to finish The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. I heard this book really has cool magical realism qualities. It deals with like the time-space continuum, which I'm very interested in. I need to finish the Blazeworth Games by Amparo Ortiz, which is basically like Dragon World Cup. It's about a Puerto Rican main character who is competing to be on the Puerto Rican national team to be like a dragon rider in the World Cup. I need to finish Axioms End again by Lindsay Ellis. This book is basically about an alien invasion in the mid-2000s, and it reminds me of Cloverfield. Like, if you've seen the movie Cloverfield, it's just, it has that same vibe, and it reminds you of signs as well. I'm currently finishing reading Running by Natalia Sylvester, which at the time of filming this comes out like in a few hours, like technically a few hours. Yeah, it comes out tomorrow morning. My mom and like basically every other book in this room, because I've been slacking hardcore on most of my reading. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to, the things that I've been reading recently. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.